All right, guys, let's take a look at question number 2. It says the variable x and y are directly proportional, and at y equals 2 when x equals 3. What is the value of y when x equals 9? Okay, so we need to talk about two things right here. All right, we need to make sure we understand what directly related means, or directly proportional. But we also need to talk about, though the question is not asking us for this, what does inversely proportional mean? Okay. Directly is what you do on a regular basis. This is x1 over y1 equals x2 over y2. Okay? So in this particular question, all you got to do is, if you realize that direct means that you divide x and y, look at that, it starts with a d and as does divide, then all you have to do is just substitute in the value. So x is 3, y is 2. What is y when x is 9? Okay, now x1, y1, x2, y2, these are relative to whatever you want to call them. So I'm just going to call this x1, y1, this is x2, y2. Does it really matter what you call what? Not really. You just have to be consistent. So whatever you call x1, the other one has to be y1. Okay? If we switch this would have been x1, this would have been y1. Okay? You can't mix and match. That would be wrong. Okay. So with that being said, all you do is plug and chug. So x is 3, y is 2. What is the value of y when x is 9? Okay? My advice too, by the way, label these. If you write out the formula, maybe make it clear. Notice I have x on top and y on the bottom. If I don't do that correctly here, I'm going to have some weirdness occur. Okay, I'm going to get a mistake. So you have to label it correctly. My x's are on top, and I could even go like this, x over y, to emphasize that the x's go on the top and the y's go on the bottom. Okay, super important. Cross multiply. So 2 times 9 equals 3y. All right. Let's solve this. So if I'm multiplying 3 times y, then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Divide by 3. So 3 goes into 9. 3 times 2 times 3 is 6. So y is 6. And there we have it. Okay? So the answer here is going to be B, 6. But even though that's the answer to the question, I want to talk about something else because you may see this on the TSI, and this is called inversely proportion. Inversely works the same way as directly, except the formula is a little slightly different. And the difference is, in this formula, you don't have you don't divide, you multiply. So just remember, if it says direct, you divide, but if it has inversely, you don't divide. All right, and let me make up an example to illustrate this that I think is a simple example, but it really helps to illustrate what's going on. Okay, let's say you have 10 guys, and these guys are making pizza, and it takes them 40 hours to make their pizza. Okay, let's say then I give you 40 guys, and I ask you, how long does it take them to make their pizza? Okay, now I'll tell you what a lot of people do. A lot of people see this question, they're like, oh, this is a proportion. So they go and they plug it into the formula. They go 10 over 40 equals 40 over y. And they cross multiply. They do 40 times 40 is 1600. And 10 times y is 10y. And then they divide through by 10. And they're like, boom, 160. There's my answer. I'm done. Okay? But let's think about this for a second. If you have more people doing a job, would the job take more time or less time? Okay? Well, you could make the argument that, well, if you have more people working at a job, the job's going to take more time because they're going to goof off. You have more people to goof off. Have you not been into a classroom before? And that's true, but generally speaking, the idea is that if you have more people working at a job, the job should be done in less time, right? This 160 makes no sense. The answer should be less than 40, okay? And this is why you have to do an inverse. So inverse, we would do 10 times 40 equals 240y. And then we divide through by 40. Note that the math here is pretty simple. Once you get the pattern down, it's pretty straightforward, and y is 10. Okay? Now let's see if this makes sense. Does it make sense that if I have 4 times as many people doing a job, that the job would take a fourth the time to do? Absolutely. And if you just thought about this problem intuitively, probably the answer you would be thinking is y is 10. Okay? So notice that we're kind of important here. If we talk about proportions, proportions doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to be direct. It could also be inverse. Okay? On the TSI, generally speaking, I think they'll have it in terms of they'll state directly or inversely. But in general, you can have a direct or an inverse proportion. Okay? One other thing here before I go, I want to point out something. Notice here, notice we said y, the answer to this problem was 6. Okay? So notice here that 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 3 is 6. So in a direct, you're multiplying through by the same value, whereas in the inverse, if you multiply, the other one is going to be the reciprocal. Okay, reciprocal meaning you flip numerator to denominator. Okay. One last comment, and I promise I won't keep talking after this. But you may see different formulas. Different teachers use different formulas for this. For example, direct could be y equals kx. Okay. My comment about that is, my advice to you is stick to the direct and inverse. I think this is more intuitive than this. All this is really saying is that this thing that I'm multiplying through by, this 3, tends to be this k value. Okay? So it's not too different. It's not too much more difficult. If you're familiar with this, you can use this. My advice to you, though, is that just use direct and inverse. I think it's a lot more straightforward. All right. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. I'll see you in the next video for problem number 3.